Good morning, Centers for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert, and beyond. We are the Sensational Six, and we're so delighted to be here with you today. Our topic today is going to be led by Reverend Cheryl Guess, and it's taking responsibility for your peace. But before we dive in, I'm just going to do a little invocation to bring us all present in the moment. That's why we do that. It's just a way of connecting us. Not only the six of us, but all of you to us. So what I know is in this moment, there is that divine connection that beneath everything lies that oneness. That oneness is so based in absolute love and is always unfolding perfectly. And I engage in this divine dance in the one. And today I know that we each engage in it, that there is a connection beyond space and time. And this connection is strong. It is clear. It is peaceful. And it is a privilege to be here today. I am open to everything that wants to come through me. And I know the same is true for each and every person watching now or in the future. And I am so grateful for this group and so grateful for each person watching today. And I can simply let it be so and know that it's already unfolded absolutely perfectly in mind, in spirit, in truth. And I just release it knowing it is so, and so it is. All right. So as I mentioned, today's topic is taking responsibility for your peace. And each week we ask a question. And this question is just a way for you to get to know us individually. And today's question is, share a time in your life when you felt utterly at peace. Well, that's super easy. I'm going first. This morning I was doing a meditation. And in that meditation, I was following my breath. And by following my breath, I just felt like I was bathed in peace. And for me, breath is always the thing that brings me back to the presence and the truth of my nature. So when I'm in that place, I just feel at peace. And I know that I can tap into that anytime. So easy this morning. How about you, Reverend Dale?
Thank you, Reverend Laurie. I'm on the same page as you. Right now is the time of my life where I'm feeling the greatest peace because, and I know Reverend Cheryl's going to be addressing this. Peace is a state of consciousness and it's a choice. And so I know that when I live in that awareness, every moment I can choose to be in peace. And even with what the world is going through right now, I know that peace is not based on conditions outside of myself or anything I'm walking through. It's a state of being. And I love peace. And I love knowing that I can choose it at any moment. So I'm going to say right here, right now is the most peaceful time of my life. Okay, so I'm going to pass it on to Reverend William.
I think every single one of us might have to say it's today. But that just shows you the truth of life. And I have to say that today, this morning, when I take my dog for a walk and I just go out in the morning and it's beautiful, it's nice and cold today. I love it. So I get to break out my Pendletons and stuff. But it truly is. It's a state of consciousness, like Reverend Dale was talking about. And that's one of the beautiful things about this philosophy is it allows you to open up and realize the truth of who and what you are and where you come from and what you're expressing. And when you can understand that, you'll find that peace is right here and right now. It seriously is only one breath away, like Reverend Brad always does. He does his little, and I'm sure he's going to do it, but that's what it is. Today, right now, this morning is peace. And if I ever need to find it again or to feel it, not find it, feel it, it's seriously just a breath away because it seriously is just a state of consciousness and connection. And so next we have Reverend Gail. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend William. And I agree. Peace is really natural. It is our natural state. But I do find that different situations can move me from my peace. And I think that it is a great awareness for all of us, because once you recognize you've been moved from your peace, then you can move back into your natural state. So I find that one of the ways that I'm doing that right now is very similar to what Lori mentioned, and that's in my morning breathing meditations. And for me, those breath meditations are truly peace-filled. But I'd also like to answer this question outside of meditation, really in just my everyday life. So recently, a lovely, lovely lady that I know made her transition. And in addition to feeling sad for my loss, I also felt a strong sense of peace, knowing that she is now soaring joyfully, reunited with her beloved husband who made his transition a couple of years before her. So Reverend Brad, I'd love to hear about your peace-filled experience.
Thanks, Reverend Gail. I love our reminder so far this morning of it's not a condition, it's consciousness. So that's a great, once I summarized all my amazing colleagues, I thought, it's not conditioned, it's consciousness. Short and sweet to remember to do. One comment we have so far is perfect topic for me, thank you. And my little peacetime, it's funny that came to mind besides in my morning meditation. 21 and a half years ago when my son was born, we were in probably hour 12 of labor. And I remember in the delivery room, I opened my eyes and there's music playing, and I didn't have a candle, of course, but it sure feels like there was a candle. And my wife in the hospital bed is asleep, and our close friend and my sweet mother-in-law. And luckily I have a photo of that where it's just this now 2 hours later, it wasn't with an epidural and blah, blah, blah. But for that moment, it was a wonderful picture of what a cool way to give birth. So, Cheryl, take it.
Unmute.
So what Cheryl is saying is, I'll translate.
Sorry, I'm back. I'm here. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Learning curve, learning curve. Unmute Cheryl, unmute Cheryl. Mine was, of course, I find peace in meditation, just as everyone has said, and that I am now pretty much constantly in a state of peace in my life. I've reached that point, but there was a place when I was in Carmel Highlands, and I had shared this with Dale and William during practitioner training, because it was just such a fabulous feeling. And I had a dog that she was 13 years old, and she had really severe autoimmune disease. So it was really hard. It attacked her joints. And it was so hard for her to walk. We were staying at a hotel. So I leave and I go out the back of the hotel, and I'm just taking it very slow so, she can, go out and do her business and stuff. And we started walking, and there was this hill, and it was this really huge old growth trees. And some of them had fallen, and you could see where the vines had started covering them. And it was just this beautiful, serene place. And you could hear the ocean in the background. And we started walking. And now usually she would go, if I was lucky, maybe 5 minutes. And so we start walking, and she's tugging on the leash. It's a little schnauzer. She's not like dragging me up the hill, but she's tugging and walking and walking and walking and walking. And I was just so into that moment, and we were just walking. And then all of a sudden I came back into that moment, into the reality of where I was. And I turn around and we start walking back. It was a really far, halfway down from walking all this distance. My husband at the time was walking up the hill because he was looking for us, because he said, "What happened to you? Where have you been?" I said, "What?" He goes, "You've been gone for 2 hours." So it was just like we were in this perfect, serene, beautiful peace. And I think that that's what has led me into this teaching, is to find that within me again. See, at the time, I thought it was an external peace, that was what was causing it. But the reality was that I had reached, and she reached, my little girl, Bandit, her name was, had reached that perfect space or peace where all other things fell away. And to me, that is perfect peace, when all the cares and the worries of the world just kind of fall away. And so that's what I was seeking when I got into this teaching, and that's where I am now. So that's what my perfect peace was. But so what is peace exactly? According to the dictionary, it's a state of tranquility or quiet. You think about quiet. I like that, because peace doesn't necessarily have to be quiet, but for some reason, as human beings, we feel like the only time I'm at peace is when everything's quiet and nothing's going on, and I'm not being pushed or shoved or punched or poked, or all of my little buttons are just perfectly in line and nobody's pushing them, you know? But peace is something that is within you, as we've all said here. It is a consciousness. It's not necessarily a state of being. It's a state of thinking and a state of awareness that this is where you want to remain. So when you talk about, you know, during the holidays, especially coming up, we're talking about being around relatives, and maybe some relatives that we're not exactly crazy about, but, you know, we want to share our family experience and everything with the holidays. But what if you thought about this for a minute? If I wounded you, I'm not the cause of you feeling wounded. You already had a wound that I was able to touch and push in order to wound you again, or to have that feeling of woundedness come up. When I get angry at you or something, it's because I'm disappointed because maybe you didn't meet my expectations. So when you think of it that way, I have set myself up, I programmed myself to accept rejection from the fact that I've tried to push my expectations on you, and you reject it. Totally understand, but why should I be angry? Because you're not meeting my expectations. So what if we looked at it from this point of view? I can't change you. Therefore, I must accept you. And whenever I don't accept you is when I lose my peace. So start thinking about, it's about coming from a place of remaining in that peaceful area within you. You can't find it outside of yourself. How many times you've heard people say, oh, my kids are driving me crazy. I just can't get any peace. Well, that is a reflection of where your consciousness is. Taking responsibility for your own peace. That means that you can be in a room full of relatives that you wish that you were on the moon instead of there, but remaining in that peace, not allowing somebody to feed you their poison, in other words. And if somebody hates you, that hate lives within them. It doesn't live within you unless you drink the poison. So you have to realize that no matter whatever anyone else is experiencing, you're the one that allows them to disrupt your peace, if it is disrupted. So what is your strategy? So have you built a strategy for remaining peaceful during the holidays? Have you thought of what's the best way to remain at peace? I love Dr. Joe. He said the relatives that really, it's really hard to talk to them. His Aunt Mary, I think it is, that is always kind of, a very negative person. So what he says, oh, let's go try the deviled eggs, So what is your strategy? Are you going to be doing things that will allow you to remove yourself from that feeling? Or have you decided just maybe to take all the buttons off of yourself right now and not let somebody push your buttons? Just recognize they know where your buttons are. You put them there. They know where they are. They can push them. So we all have different people that it's difficult for us to, navigate around because of their attitudes or their feelings or their beliefs or whatever. But we don't have to worry about changing them. We just have to accept and love them and know that they can't touch this, all of this is me. This is where I live. This is what I allow in, and this is what I don't allow in. So, but also, who do you need to forgive? Because when you're not in forgiveness, you're not at peace. When you're carrying and harboring resentment or anger or hatred for someone, you cannot be at peace. It's impossible. It cannot be done. So look at that and think about, who do you need to forgive? But first of all, you need to forgive yourself for keeping that stuff for so long. And then what needs to change within you to reach that tranquil space? Who do you just need to accept and love? Is like I say, you know, people will say, oh, that's their fault in this. And I just say, oh, it's just part of their charm. You know, we all have our different flaws and we have our perfections. We have all different things that constitute and make this incomparable individual expression of God. So what do you need to do to work on your peace? Not to find it outside of you, but to find it within you. So I'd like to open up the discussion to anyone who'd like to go next. Anybody want to weigh in on this? William.
I like when you touched on the kids and family and stuff happening and all this energy, and it's hard to find peace. And for those of you who are watching and may have kids, especially younger kids, I know that when I was a young parent and my boys were young, again, peace doesn't have to be that state of stillness where there's quiet and that sort of stuff. There is peace in excitement, in energy. But it's your alignment with that. And if you are having children and you can't find, and you say you can't find that peace while your kids are busy running around, remember who and what they are and yourself and know that part of being a parent is guidance. And when you can focus that energy in discovery and just see the aha lights go off in your kids' eyes, I tell you what, there's no greater reward than when you find an anthill and the kids are just exploring it and you talk about it and there's this sense of wonder and awe in their eyes because it's something so new, but yet it's so commonplace to us. To be able to really take in that moment and that connection with your child, and that goes with all relationships, whether it's your child, whether it's your parent, whether it's your siblings, or whether it's in-laws. That's another nice one. But if you can just recognize and be aware of the connection that you have with another person, realizing that we are all made from the same stuff, I think that can help find a sense of peace regardless of the state of energy around you. I know it helps me, and I invite and encourage you to try the same. So if anybody would like to comment on that.
Well, I'm going to move it in a different direction because that's what I like to do. Cheryl, by the way, Reverend Cheryl, that was so comprehensive and you hit such great points. I just wanted to thank you for starting us off with such a juicy topic. So thank you. What I want to just kind of talk about is, because I know sometimes, we talk about these states of being that we lead you to get into, and then perhaps you're unable to sustain it, and then you feel badly about yourself because you haven't reached this nirvana state in this incarnation that we live in. And I just want to clarify, that's not what we're talking about. We're not teaching people how to never feel life and never be triggered, because life happens. We can move our consciousness and do all this inner work, and then that little thing comes up that we weren't expecting that is illuminating some peace that is lacking inside of ourselves, or some work that there's to do. So I just want to emphasize that there's fluidity of consciousness, and we have the ability to unstick ourselves when these unpeaceful events happen or states of consciousness come up. We can be the observer. We can see what is being told to ourselves about ourselves, where there might be some work to do, whether it's like Reverend Cheryl said, maybe there's some forgiveness work. Maybe we're feeling separate from spirit. We're not knowing who we are, and we're in a place where we're feeling less than. So to me, just all roads lead to being really flexible in our life experiences, being aware, being mindful, open up to the wisdom of your soul, and know that you are the allness of spirit, as is everybody. And to always know that you've got that power inside of you, and you've got that peace inside of you. And what we do here is we figure out how to find that road back. And that's just, to me, I just see it as a constant in life, that things come up. I get disturbed. There's my work to do to understand what's going on. What do I need to know? And how can I bring myself back to peace, like Reverend Gail spoke to earlier. And so on that note, I'm going to pass it back to Reverend Gail right now.
Thank you, Reverend Dale. Thank you so much for really bringing real life to our discussion today. Because yes, we know the truth is that we are peace naturally. Peace is our natural state. And given that, for me, it felt really important this week, as Cheryl had shared her topic with us, to understand for me what moves me away from my peace. That I'm peace naturally, but yes, I get moved away from my peace. And so I really thought about it this week, and I took notes and I jotted down when were the times that I felt I had moved away from my peace. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that spoke to me. And I wonder if any of this might resonate with you at all. So I believe the invitation here is to see if I can, maybe you can, maybe we can, even for just one day, take 100% responsibility for aligning our words, our thoughts, and actions, not only on peace. That's a great place to be, but I'd like to add maybe with love and harmony and compassion. And I'm going to start with just one day. That's what I did this week. Just start, Gail, with just one day. And if one day is too much, which I found sometimes it was, I just started with 1 hour and then worked my way up. Maybe I'll spend 5 minutes being mindful of the impact of my presence, of your presence in the world. So that's the first thing that came up for me. And then in taking responsibility for my own peace, I'm going to try and pray for someone or offer to help them instead of judging them. Now, what I find about judgment is that I do find myself in judgment from time to time, but I'm actually grateful for that, because when I feel it, that tugs at my awareness and it causes me to jump right back and say, okay, in taking my responsibility for my own peace, I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to offer to help them whatever they need and drop the judgment. So I'm really appreciative for that awareness. And hopefully that those experiences will spread out and become fewer and far between. But I have to be honest that they're there. So maybe we could all consider practicing acceptance, as Dale had said, a little bit more, instead of intolerance. And also taking responsibility for my own peace means taking responsibility for my own words and thinking before I say them. That one came up several times in the last week. And I'm also going to take responsibility for my thoughts and question whether they're accurate. There's a lot going on right now that I question, wait a minute, where did that thought come from? Or could I be reacting to a story that my mind is making up rather than the truth? And so I think one of the things I'm saying is I find that it's helpful to me to take a deep breath and just check in with myself. Where am I? Another thing that came up for me, am I going to say yes to something and say yes only when I mean it, not when I don't? And also, am I going to give myself credit where credit's due? And am I going to thank those who serve me and catch people doing things that are right and let them know that I noticed? So I think most importantly, and I guess what I'm really saying here with my examples, is I'm going to take a breath when I catch myself and journey into my own heart, find that peace, and then bring it back out into the world. So I'd like to take this just one step further and say, consider what I'm doing, which is kind of starting a personal movement, that peace starts here, right here with me, because that we are peace naturally. And we're the antidote to all that is not peace. So let's wage peace. Let's calmly and boldly claim peaceful hearts and peaceful homes and just feel how powerful we are. Let's take responsibility for our own peace. So that's my 2 cents. Who wants to jump in next?
Brad will jump in. As you slowly take a drink of coffee, or remind yourself what Reverend Gail just said, did you see her light up when she's talking about taking responsibility and having peace begin here? So we didn't go anywhere. It's still there's a condition. And if I focus on what is going on within me, that's where I can manage the peace in my condition. Sometimes when I pop in here, I usually love listening to my colleagues, and I don't know what else to say, right? I hope you're all having a pen and pencil handy. And if you have any questions or comments, pop it in and we'll share it with all of us, because we're on many different platforms through this new technology we're using. We're not just on the website. We're not just on YouTube. We're other places also. There we go. Some of them are posted right on our screen. So I love the things they're talking about, whether someone's irritating you, we have expectations. Do you see it's still like there's this thing over there? A clear example to help me even get another breath. If I have a 2-year-old and they're always getting in the Tupperware cupboard, and I tell them no or do whatever, tomorrow, if I think they're not going to get in the Tupperware cupboard, that's all about me, because they're still going to get in that Tupperware cupboard. And if I just say, they're just going to get in the Tupperware cupboard, that's just what it is. That's their nature. That's what they're going to do. And I can either let it go and clean it up every day and have them help me clean it up, or I can put a fellow lock on it. That's the same thing with adults. When we're having people in our lives and we're not feeling peace with them, yelling at them or getting frustrated with them, when we have observed that their behavior is a certain way, when we can say, you know what, they're just continuing to be themselves, and I'm the one that continues to get upset. So how can I use that mindset to take control of what's going on within me and my consciousness, so that I can feel peaceful all the time, regardless of whether that person is doing the same behavior I saw them do last month or last year or last decade. I love Cheryl's comment regarding, expectation. I think expectation is always taking you down the wrong path. It always will. It just sets us up for failure, because we're either going to be open at the top, like this philosophy teaches, or we're going to think it needs to be a certain way and you need to meet that expectation. That thinking about that all the time brings me peace so much, whether it's as a caregiver for my parents or with people I work with or people I socialize with. When I plan something and it doesn't work out, or something else different is going on, I can say, well, I love Reverend Dale mentioned, what can I learn from this? Because the universe doesn't teach me a single lesson. The universe only reflects my consciousness. To raise my consciousness, I can observe it and go, oh, well, that sure as hell is what I wanted. What can I do within me so that I do create outside of me what I want? So are there any questions or comments you have as we're going along? And I think Reverend Laurie is going to share next also.
Oh, I love this conversation. And it's interesting. The word responsibility for me used to be kind of heavy. Like I thought about it as I have to, or I should, like, take responsibility. It just carried a weight with it. And when I got that, the meaning was simply to respond. My ability to respond to a situation. Oh, wait a minute, that was kind of empowering. And then when I was training to be a coach, my teacher said, what if you traded out responsibility for privilege? And I went, oh, God, that feels really good. It's actually a privilege for me to be with others. It's a privilege for me to know who they are truly beyond any, behavior, right? And the way I interact with people really comes from my belief about people. Everything comes from my belief, my underlying belief. So if I think somehow I know better than the person I'm interacting with, I'm not going to be peaceful. If I think I have their answers and they don't, I'm not going to be peaceful. If I think in any way they need to be fixed or something's wrong with them, I will not be peaceful. But if my belief is everybody's life is unfolding perfectly and we're each having our own experience and everybody's experience is serving their highest and best path, then I don't have to fix them. There's nothing wrong. And if there's nothing wrong, then there's nothing to get stressed out about. So that was a big shift for me, from the weight of responsibility to the joy of privilege, being a privilege to be with other people, even when maybe they're not behaving in a way that I'm enjoying. But that's got to be okay. And isn't it funny? Have you ever noticed when you're interacting with somebody, when you try to fix them or, something outside of yourself, it just frustrates people. They don't like it. And then it escalates the situation. But if there's nothing to push back against because you are peaceful and because you're looking at them through the eyes of love and seeing what a privilege it is to be with them in that moment, even if they're freaking out, it's still a privilege. And that just changes everything. First of all, there's nothing, as I said, to push back against. So it dissipates. All that energy just dissipates. And instead, maybe they begin to breathe in your presence. For me, the thing I want most in my interactions with people, more than anything else, is that in my presence, they can breathe. In my presence, they see who they truly are. That, to me, is the greatest privilege of my life, is to be able to be in that space, to know the truth. And when I come from that place, responsibility is not heavy. It's simply my ability to respond, and it is a privilege to do so from a place of truth. So I know Reverend Cheryl has more to add for us.
Actually,
Well, it makes me think about Lao Tzu, my favorite philosopher. And one of the verses in the Tao is that to be in action and not action. So what it means is just to be. Sometimes just observe, like Lori was saying. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. Just observe what's going on around you without incorporating it into you. And one of the things to think about is whenever I see something in somebody else that I think is reprehensible or whatever, that means that there's something within me that feels that that's reprehensible to me, not to them. Maybe what they're doing is they're just living their lives. So it's like Lori was saying as well, is when you're coming from judgment, you're really messing up your peace because you've got expectations, you've got everybody thinking that this is the way it should be. You've already got it decided, and when it doesn't unfold that way, then you're not at peace anymore. So I just invite you to think about just being in action for a minute or for a few minutes whenever you're in that situation where you can start to feel that button's going to be pushed or whatever, that just to go to that place of inaction and just observe and just listen to what they have to say. And then just remember also that whatever anyone else is saying to you, whatever anybody else is doing, it is showing you who they are. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. And once you reach that state, when you realize it has nothing to do with me, this is their observation, this is the way that they feel, this is how they're showing up in the world. When you recognize that, all of a sudden it takes all the power out of anything that's going to be thrown at you because it has nothing to do with you. And I know that's hard, like Gail was saying. It's hard not to be human and to live in this life and know that there are certain things that are going to push us or shove us a different direction, maybe past experiences or past situations or whatever. But just know if you just stay in this moment, in the moment, and let that go, then you're not just bringing new discord, and you're not just bringing new trauma and drama into your life. You're just staying in that place of peace. So anyway, who wants to go? I think Brad wants to jump in, and then we're going to have Dale.
Just a couple of quick comments from our listening audience. One is thinking that peace is a fundamental state in order to be our best selves. Thank you for this wonderful conversation, which I guess just got posted. So I guess someone else is looking at questions and posting them. So I will pass on to our next sharer.
Okay, thank you. Well, I love being really transparent, and I love that Reverend Gail was talking about how she was watching herself this week to see when she was feeling out of peace and what was going on for her. And I thought I'm going to apply this right now too, because I know, and here we go. Let's be live in the moment. This election, how many of you are going in and out of peace with it? I know I am. And I really wanted to examine what that was, because I've been living with my feelings, obviously, and my emotions, the reactions that are coming up, so that I can be mindful of what's going on inside of myself. And something that I came to is this feeling of being powerless, that I have absolutely no power, because it's all dependent upon this election and all the twists and turns of it. And I realized it was such a great awareness to see that, because then I knew exactly the work to do inside of myself. And it always comes back to, as we always say, is knowing who you are. When I know that I am, I'm a spiritual being, I'm that God is completely in this world, then I am fully powerful. And so my power and who I am isn't dependent upon this election that's going on. That is robbing myself of my innate divine essence and my ability to have a joyful life no matter what. And so I really got clear that feeling powerless can really rock my world for who I am and take me out of peace. So that these gentle reminders of where we're investing our energy and our identity, when we feel we're out of peace, it's a great reminder to say, who am I and what am I confusing my essence with, when my essence is spirit, and to remind myself of that. And the second point I wanted to drive in is, we had one of our first comments out there that talked about, the person said something about when they have self-love and self-compassion and compassion for others, that brings them to peace. And I think love is always such a great antidote to restoring our inner peace. When we go to love, everything, it's just an energy shifter, and it really puts us back into that steady state of the natural essence of who we are. And I think, Reverend Gail, the ball is going into your court now.
Thank you, Reverend Dale. And thank you for being so transparent about our world today. And so with that, I'd like to jump in and just take it in a little bit different direction and jump on finding inner peace and add its impact on others. So achieving a state of inner peace ourselves contributes to our sense of, well-being. But does it actually do anything for anyone but us, and perhaps the people closest to us? So maybe in this discussion, we could also think about our inner peace as reaching far beyond the limits of our own bodies and our personal energy fields. So think about this as an example. We know that in the energy field, we all share with the earth and all the living creatures. An animal can sense its way back home from miles away, and it picks up on signals within the energy field that, quite frankly, even the most sophisticated scientific instruments can't pick up, they can't perceive. So what if someone seeking peace, or even simply opening their heart to feeling that natural peace, can be reached by the peace that we generate within and radiate outwards? So what if believing in our interconnectedness with the universe keeps us mindful of our power and causes us to make conscious choices to be more understanding, be more kind, be more compassionate in everyday interactions? Just imagine how your inner peace might affect others. What might change? I like to imagine my inner peace traveling with others as they go to their next destination, even more people will carry it to their next destination as well. So what if your inner peace travels along invisible currents in our shared energy field and has the potential to affect someone who's feeling anxious or someone who's feeling angry today who needs to feel peace within? Just a thought. It feels to me simply delicious. So what say you, my friends?
That was a deep one there. And I'm ready to jump on in. You are absolutely right, Reverend Gail, that the inner peace is within you. Because it's a proven fact that we are nothing more or less than just pure energy. Everything about us is a vibration. And those vibrations radiate out. I love the story about take an animal out and it finds its way back home. Well, I think peace is that home. And each and every one of us are out in the world finding our way back home. That home of love, that home of peace. And if you, the viewers, and all my reverends here, if you live from that state of consciousness and that state of energy, you can't help but be able to affect those around us. It doesn't even have to be verbalized. It is just a sense of energy around each and every one of us. So like Dr. Joe talks about all the time, be the peace you want to see in the world. And so when you come from that state of consciousness, of knowing who and what you are and where you came from and what you're experiencing, you can't help but be in that peace state, that state of energy of perfection. And when you live from that and know that at the core of who and what you are, you change people in situations without even uttering a word. And on that, I just open the session up to whoever wants to take the ball and go for the touchdown.
I can go for just a second, just to, from what the other comments and things, it came to me that you're actually a mirror of who you are in the world. So whenever you're presenting yourself, it's just like you can say somebody else is showing up and they're showing me who they are out loud. Are you showing up and showing who you are out loud? Are you the peace in the room? I've had people that have come to me before in practitioner sessions that are devastated by the information that their child or a member of their family has received a bad diagnosis of some sort. And they'll say, well, they don't want me around anymore. I can't help it. Every time I see them, I just start crying and I just cry and I just cry and I just cry. And so you say, but then you stop and think, would you want somebody around that was not supporting you in your healing and in what your modality is, whatever it is, whatever place you're going with that? So the suggestion is that I gave to this person, but maybe this is what you could do too in these family situations or anything that's coming up, the election, whatever is bringing you. Be the light in the room. Be the one that is the positive, that remains in that calm state of being. Don't be the one, if you need to feel sadness and things, you have to feel those things, but do it in private, not in front of this person. Be their support, be the light that keeps everybody else in the room in that perfect state of peace, because you can be that person that makes the whole room peaceful. You are that powerful. Just have to stay in that space of knowing that peace is our natural state of being. So anybody else ready to jump in?
Reverend Cheryl, I'll jump in. So we're getting close to the end of our time today. So I'd love to ask my cohorts if anyone has some final comments that they'd like to share to wrap up this just powerful topic that we've had today from Reverend Cheryl.
I guess I'll just say one thing. Peace is an inside job. Peace is an inside job. And we are all here. Reverend Brad, I'm going to take your role. We are all here to, as our practitioners, we are all here to help you find that path to peace inside of yourself. If you need any kind of support, or we all have a ton of things in our toolbox that can help you to find your way to that peaceful place within yourself. As Reverend Gail had talked about, it's natural to us. We have an unlimited reservoir of peace within ourselves. And if we can't get there, allow us to help you find that.
Thank you, Reverend Dale. So that brings us to the close of our exploration today with let's take responsibility for our own peace. And we thank everyone for joining us. And we invite you to come back next week when we expand on yet another spiritual exploration. So a treasured takeaway for today might be remembering that our inner peace reaches far beyond the limits of our bodies and our personal energy fields. Pay attention when a feeling of peace arises in you. You might want to ask yourself, where did this peace come from? Where will this peace go as I, embodying it, allow it to radiate outward into the energy field that we all share? Let your peace travel in mysterious and invisible ways. And always remain open to the possibility that the peace within actually becomes the peace in the world. I truly believe that that's the case. So let's take a deep breath in and make the transition into the part of this time together where we support our center financially. You'll see a blue button directing your donation on the screen, or you can call the center directly. We're very, very blessed by all of you that support our center, and you choose to make a donation today. We welcome it gratefully. We have got a great live stream lineup this week. So first, mark your calendars for tonight at 6:30 p.m. for our powerful monthly virtual restorative intention circle. If you love the power of 8, this takes you to an even deeper level of focus, both giving and receiving directed energy around both a powerful community intention and your individual intention for your life. Joining is easy. There's no registration required. Either click on the website banner or on the e-blast that you received. And what's happening every day at 10 a.m.? Well, tomorrow, Thursday, join Reverend Laura for the Higher View with special guest Linda Dirks. Friday, join Reverend Charles for more Life on Love. Saturday's guided meditation at 10 a.m. features one of the amazing new ministers you see here today. And Sunday, join anytime after 6 a.m. for our weekly service and spirit boost. And remember, our virtual prayer room follows at 11 a.m., providing you with confidential prayer. And that's not all. Mark your calendars for tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. for the Social 8, our CSL Palm Desert social rendezvous for the week. And don't forget Wednesdays at 8 a.m. for our Power of 8 intention circle. So now that you have a glimpse of your full week ahead at our center, please join me in our closing benediction. Thank you so much for being part of the Sensational 6 community. Something wonderful, simply wonderful, is happening through me right here and right now. It's a movement. Peace starts here, right now. This peace is my mind, this peace is my body, and this peace is all of my affairs. I think it, I feel it, and I accept it just the way that it is. I know that I am never alone. Spirit is right where I am, and Spirit is right where you are. I only have to look within at any moment in time to know that I am guided, sustained, and empowered by a presence that expresses its love and peace through my love and peace in the world. From deepest gratitude, I give thanks that life can be lived by staying open to peace and to truth, so that everything I do and say and think honors this presence within. And so it is. Amen.